Episode 8, Rose Predicament. Before we start, please like and subscribe. Reuben and John were impressed. Well said. They cheered simultaneously on the live channel. There was also a wave of admiration. Little Tim, this is what a rich person should be like. Harry's cat. That's great. One look and you can tell you have something to say. Silver Moon. I like it. You're quite humble than those rich, arrogant guys. What's happening now? Ghost Rider had become silent. By this point, the system message popped up in the message bar. Ghost Rider has left. The Ghost Rider had slipped away, and the audience was laughing. On the live stream, another girl could be seen walking over to Minnie and placing her hands on her shoulders. Someone asked Minnie, "Who else is with you in your studio?" The girl had long hair, a pointed chin, and very light makeup. She was very pretty. She looked very relaxed on the live stream. As she looked at the camera, the audience watching the live stream vlog felt their hearts tremble. Minnie introduced her. "Guys, this is my roommate, Jonah. She's so beautiful. If you keep watching my show, I'll give you her social media handle." Minnie held Jonah's hand and spoke sweetly to the screen. Jonah had just been watching Minnie's live streaming blog when she saw that her friend had been given nearly $1,000. She became excited. 11 warships were worth $1,000. Of course, she also wanted to find a rich man. If this admirer was a friend of Minnie, Jonah wanted to get to know him. "Minnie, you haven't answered me yet. Who is this man?" Jonah asked her friend as she pulled over a chair and sat in front of the camera, openly looking at the screen, wanting the rich man who was watching the live streaming blog to have a good look at her. "I don't know. I think it's Steve who came to watch my live streaming blog today." Minnie shook her head and looked at the camera. "Steve, are you still there?" "Yes, I'm here," Jeff replied. Jonah was overjoyed. She was extremely excited and did everything she could to attract him. "Steve, you were so cool just now. You gave Minnie a $1,000. Without a second thought, she said, "You're so cool. I'm preparing to do my live stream. Will you watch it?" When Reuben saw Jeff lying on the bed holding his phone, he was sure that he was watching Minnie's live streaming blog. He tried to help him. "Jeff, stop watching that. You know Jonas always gets excited when she sees a rich man. She's so shameless." Jeff ignored him and continued to look at his phone. "Jonah," Minnie called out to Jonah grumpily, "why didn't you tell me that you're preparing to start a live stream? Even if you do you think you'll be able to steal Steve away from me?" Jonah ignored Minnie's words and said shamelessly to the camera, "Steve, I'm still single and I haven't been able to find a suitable boyfriend. For some reason, I like you, and I feel a connection. I'd like us to get to know each other." Jonah's coy expression as she spoke was touching. Steve asked, "Are you still single?" Jonah was slightly taken aback. She was so beautiful that she could understand that it was hard to believe that she was single. However, she had to give the right impression to help secure a rich husband, so she insisted that she was. She also knew that men were particularly attracted to women who had not yet had a partner. "Yeah, and I haven't even had a boyfriend yet," Jonah said coyly. "Jonah, didn't you just break up with Jeff? Aren't you dating with Jake now?" Minnie asked Jonah live on the show. Minnie was used to Jonah's manipulative character. Normally, it didn't bother her, but this man had given her a gift worth $1,000. She wasn't about to lose him to Jonah. Jonah had not expected Minnie to expose her. She looked embarrassed and smiled apologetically. "Jake and I were just good friends. As for Jeff, I felt sorry for him because he's poor, and I helped him study. As for me and him being in a relationship, that was all a rumor spread by our classmates." Jonah had managed to invent an excuse to prove her innocence to the possible suitor. Steve, if you want to get to know Kathy, add me. Halfway through Minnie's words, the system prompted, "This viewer has already left the live broadcast room." Minnie and Jonah were disappointed. Jeff turned off his phone and lay in the bed. He stared at the wall but wasn't looking at it. He was thinking about Jonah's scene just now. "I was with Jonah for a year, and yet she linked our relationship to helping a poor classmate. Her words are like a sword piercing my heart." Jeff smiled bitterly to himself. Jonah liked money. How would she feel if she knew how rich I was? The next morning, Jeff and his roommates returned to their dorm after class. They just finished eating their takeout and were preparing to relax for a while when Joe walked in. He looked depressed as he entered the room and said, "Something's happened." "What's happened? What's our sports department done this time?" Royben asked as he sipped water from his glass. "Something's happened to Rose." Joe answered his question. It was Anthony Brennan, the deputy manager of the White Tiger Group. "Holy shit, the White Tiger Group," Royben exclaimed. He was shocked. He stood up and said loudly, "The White Tiger Group ranks in the top 10 in New York." Right. There were the White Tiger retail offices on the streets that belonged to them, and this was one of the only businesses that belonged to their group. "Rose is done at this time. Why did she hit him? She's definitely in trouble now." Jeff glanced at Royben, who was still talking nonstop. Then Jeff looked at Joe and asked, "Doesn't Rose also come from a powerful family? Isn't there anything they can do?" Jeff knew that Rose's family was rich enough to open an account at the Metro Bank, so they must be powerful. Rose's family owns a company called Seafox Cargo Company, but it doesn't compare to the White Tiger Corporation, Joe said with a frown. "Susan told me that Rose's company had bad news today. Rose's dad is really worried about several partnerships that are threatening to cancel." Joe crossed his arms. "The White Tiger Group must have done this. I've seen information about them on the internet. The boss of the group, Donald Brennan, is Anthony's father, and he's bad news. He is very ruthless in his business dealings." John looked at Royben, then looked at Jeff. His face was grave. Just then, Joe's phone rang. He was his girlfriend, Susan. Joe answered the phone nervously. "All right, I'll go right now." "Okay, that's it. Bye." Then Joe hung up the phone. Rose got a call from her dad. He's told her she has to fix it. He said the only way to resolve it is for her to spend one night with Anthony. Otherwise, Donald is going to ruin their family. "Yesterday, I caught that lowlife Anthony looking weirdly at Rose. I think it'll cost her a lot to make it up to him. Damn it, this father and son are bloody shameless." Royben cursed angrily. Joe and the others also understood what it would mean for Rose to have to make it up to Anthony Brennan. "Don't say any more. Let's go to Susan's dorm now and help Rose come up with some ideas." Joe stood up quickly. All four hurried outside and locked the door behind them. After checking with the dorm front desk worker, Joe led Jeff and the others quickly to the third floor and pushed open the door of the dorm room that Rose shared with her friends. Although Rose and the others dressed well, the dorm room was run down. The blankets covering Susan's bed appeared to be of good quality, but the other three beds looked very disheveled. Susan, Stacy, and Betty sat beside Rose looking anxious. Rose sobbed and hugged her legs as she sat on the bed. "How is she?" Joe asked Susan as he entered the room. Susan stood up and dragged Joe and the others to the door. She turned around and looked at Rose with concern, then lowered her eyes and whispered to them, "Rose's dad knows that. She's the one that caused this trouble," and he shouted at her over the phone. "She's been crying for almost 3 hours now, and her dad told her that if she can't sort things out, she'll be in a lot of trouble." Damn, what kind of father is he? Royben couldn't help but feel disgusted. "I guess he's in a tight spot," Susan responded. After all, 7-8 of his business partners are threatening to cancel their contracts. Anyone who hasn't threatened yet still might. Her dad called me in secret and asked me to take care of Rose. He's looking for ways to resolve this situation. With that, Susan urged Joe and the others to Rose's side. Rose, don't cry. If Donald's family goes too far, we'll call the police to arrest them. Joe frowned as he tried to comfort her. Reuben took out his phone and said forcefully, "Let's call the police now. I'll call 911. "Don't," Rose cried. Only then did she look up. Her face had been buried in her knees. Her watery eyes were red from crying, and she'd lost traces of the arrogance that had been so evident the previous day. After all, Reuben and the others were trying to help her. She wiped her nose with the tissue that Betty handed to her. With tears in her eyes, she said, "It's useless to call the police. It'll only make things worse." Rose was, after all, the child of a rich family. She had seen and heard some of the methods her father and the other bosses used to deal with such matters. The police might anger Donald Brennan if he was completely enraged with his strength and power. The situation could get 100 times worse than it was now. "Need to find someone else to help," Reuben said. "If we can find someone even more powerful, they might be able to sort it out. I'll call my dad and ask him." He stood up, took out his phone, and went to one side to make a call. "I'll ask too." Susan, Stacy, and Betty all answered. However, they all knew in their hearts that with their families' connections, there was no way they could stop Donald. The boss of the White Tiger Group, Jeff, spoke for the first time. "Don't worry, it'll all be sorted out soon." To be continued. For more upcoming episodes, please like and subscribe.